Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head down to Huddersfield in Yorkshire in England once again, which is actually home to one of England's kind of most renowned craft breweries at the moment. So we're going to return to Magic Rock Brewing, of course, and we're having a look at a collaboration beer that they did with Other Half Brewing Company from Brooklyn over in New York in America. I have tried this one before, of course, when I was with Rob from Hopscene and Peter from the Master of the Hobbits. We had a go at this one when we were in Copenhagen, and I know it's really good, but it is cool, of course, to return to it and look at it on its own. So that's when you're going to get the most out of this one. But this one is the Half Cut, which is a double IPA at 8% from both of these breweries, and it got a 97 on within the style on Rate Beer and a 99 overall. Like I said, I know that this one is a really quite nice beer, so I hope you guys enjoy my take on it. So yeah, it should be a really interesting one to try. But as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries. If you want to get straight to the tasting, of course, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Magic Rock before. This is my very first encounter with Other Half Brewing though, but I will put a link down there that will take you to any future reviews that I can do from these guys. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do consider subscribing to the channel. Of course, the whole channel has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there both for the English beers that are reviewed and for the American ones. Those are constantly being added to, of course, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys, and the support you give the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Magic Rock Brewing first then. So as I mentioned to you, Magic Rock Brewing are based in Huddersfield in Yorkshire in England, one of the very local breweries from Rob at Hopscene, of course. But these guys were established back in 2011 by brothers Richard and Johnny Burhouse, although Johnny later left the company, and they were joined soon after by head brewer Stuart Ross. So the beer brewing began in mid-2011, and the beers proved so popular that the brewery won the accolade of the best new brewery of 2012 from Rate Beer, which is quite prestigious actually when it comes to craft beer. But the brewery was largely inspired by the kind of burgeoning craft beer scene that you had over in the US, which is spread all across the country these days. But these guys have been expanding their capacity steadily ever since they started. They now employ about 30 different people, and they're based in the Willow Business Park in Birkby, and the new brewing site has a capacity of around 10,000 hectolitres per year, and they have a fermentation capacity of around 70,000 litres too. So they are a fairly decent sized operation, and it is kind of recently that you're starting to get these beers more widely. From what I understand, Magic Rock was only really available up in Scotland about 2 years ago, so I suppose a year after they were starting up they did get their beers out there, but it's only recently that you can get a lot of different things from these guys, so it is cool to see they are expanding, and I do like the new kind of tall boy cans that they're doing. So if you want to try some good English craft beer, Magic Rock Brewing is one that you definitely want to have a little look at, and you see all the English beer tubers that you'll find on YouTube rave about these guys, so do make sure you check out their channels as well. Craig at Kent Beer Reviews, Dean at Dean's Beer Reviews, Harry at Blue Nose, and of course Rob at Hopscene. There's also J. Cole Beer Reviews, Gareth Ravey. There's a load of guys, and they all rave about Magic Rock Brewing. So this is an English craft brewery that you really want to check out. So anyway, if you want to check out more about these guys, of course the links are in the description below. But anyway, on to Other Half Brewing Company. So Other Half Brewing Company, as I mentioned to you, are based in Brooklyn in New York, and they were founded back in 2014 by Samuel Richardson and Matt Monaghan. So Matt had actually worked as a line cook for a number of years in kitchens, and he got really into home brewing over the years and decided to go for it and make it as a career, mainly when his wife was pregnant with their first child. He thought he couldn't make any less money brewing beer than he was making in the kitchens, of course. But Samuel, on the other hand, studied food science in Oregon with a special focus on fermentation science, so he worked in various breweries before actually starting up Other Half. So Matt manages the business side of the brewery, while Samuel is the brewery operations manager, and he's also involved in recipe development as well. So he does still brew, I believe, on quite a small scale within the brewery, and they work with another head brewer, of course. But the brewery have grown very, very quickly over their existence, and in the last few years they've kind of grown exponentially. But they do have their tap room on Centre Street in Brooklyn that you can go and visit, and it's a very kind of popular craft beer haunt when it comes to New York these days. So when I get back over there eventually, I do need to go and check that out. But this is another brewery that is up and coming. There's more and more craft beer actually coming out from New York State and finding its way over to Europe, so long may it continue. At the Copenhagen Beer Festival in 2017, 2017, there was a good number of beers and breweries over from New York State as well. So that's always one of the cool things, of course, when it comes to American beer in Europe. If you find things from really random places in America, you do tend to get some gems. So it's always exciting to encounter new breweries from over in America. But again, all the links to this brewery are in the description below, so you can check those out. So yeah, let's actually get on to the tasting of this beer itself then. So as I mentioned to you, this one is an 8% double IPA. It's hot with Amarillo, Citra, Denali, HBC 438, sorry, Magnum T90 and Mosaic. The malt base on this one is Golden Naked Oats, Golden Promise and Oats as well. And the yeast strain on this one is, what is it, it's WY 1318. So really quite an interesting beer, this one. The two hops that I've not heard of in this one, of course, because one of the things you're always doing as a beer tuber is kind of learning. The two hops I haven't heard of in this one before were the Denali. So this one was bred from Nugget, Zeus and another American hop. This one's supposed to give you a kind of piney and sort of pineapple character to the beer, of course. And then there's the HBC 438, which is derived from YCR 123 through an open pollination, which I guess means it's a kind of it's bred with a wild hop, perhaps. I'm not quite sure. But this one's supposed to give you peaches, pineapple and lime. So it should be a really interesting one. Of course, we know what the other hops tend to give you. So let's get on with this review then and see how we get on. So yeah, there you can see the standard kind of lovely artwork that you get from Magic Rock. I'll just bring it under the light, but I do love these kind of things. The artwork, of course, has changed a little bit within the last year. I don't know if they've completely stopped the 330ml cans and they're solely doing these half-litre ones now, but I would basically say the half-litre ones are better, mainly because you get more beer. The artwork on the other ones was cool, of course, but they are a little bit more distinctive when it comes to this one. But yeah, really nicely presented, this beer, 8% double IPA, like I said. So without further ado then, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting. So yeah, there you can see a nice smoky opening on this, and we'll get it out and into the glass. So this one, of course, is one of these kind of hazier, kind of Northeast American or New England style IPAs, of course. But yeah, it looks really, really nice. So let's just turn the can back round. There you are. And yeah, as you can see, this beer's poured a really nice kind of bright blood orange colour. You can see the light just reflecting off it there, but it looks very, very nice. So there's a solid finger of a frothy head on this one. It's got a little bit of a kind of creamy colour to it rather than being pure white. Quite a few big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass and a few little ones just going up towards the bottom of that head there. But overall, it looks really nice, and there's a lot of lovely kind of tropical fruit coming out of this one. I'm getting a lot of the mango actually from the, which will be from the Citra hop, and a little bit of the tangerine, which will be from the Mosaic. But you know, it looks exactly as you would expect from one of these kind of New England style IPAs. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see it's not transparent in the slightest. It is pretty opaque, but it's a lovely kind of bright, almost, it's not quite blood orange, but it's a nice kind of orangey, kind of tropical juicy colour, this one. You can smell some of this oaty sweetness as well. So it looks exactly as you'd expect. Let's take a closer look at the aroma then and see how we get on. Yeah, that's a lovely smelling beer, that. You know, it's got that, the malt base is the thing that's kind of sticking out to me initially. There's a lot of nice juicy fruity character as well, but the malt base, it's kind of what you'd expect, a big kind of white bready sort of oaty kind of creamy smoothness sort of thing coming out of this one. There's a little bit of a biscuity sweetness too, but it's a really big kind of fruity juicy IPA, this one, which is what you'd expect. So yeah, to me, it's really the mangoes that are coming out of this one, and you get some of these kind of sharper things. I can definitely get a little bit of the sort of limey character that was coming out, which I believe, if I'm checking, that is from the HBC 438. Like I say, we're always learning with these hops, but definitely I think there's a good bit of limey character coming out of this one. There's a good bit of tangerines. If you breathe it in a bit more deeply, you take the aroma in just a little bit more deeply, I think there's a good bit of the kind of lighter tangerine notes. That's the Mosaic, of course. The Amarillo does give you orange, and you can smell a little bit of that slightly juicier note. It's almost the way I guess to distinguish between the Amarillo and the Mosaic a little bit is the Mosaic almost has a little bit of that kind of juicy New Zealand hop character about it when it comes to the oranges. The tangerines, it's more of a tangerine note you get from that one than the orange, and it just smells that little bit more juicy. But yeah, to me it's mangoes in this one. The mangoes are kind of dominating the aroma a little bit. Then it's oranges. I can get a little bit of the pineapple as well, which I think was from the Denali, it was called. But yeah, to me there's a kind of nice juicy tropical fruit aroma, and then you've got that nice kind of New England style IPA malt base under there. It's a really interesting beer, this one, but just going by the aroma. There's a lot of fruity, juicy character going on in there. Yeah. Just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one. You can smell a little bit, if you take it in a bit more deeply again, you can smell a little bit of the pungency that you're going to get from these, from the sort of floral aromaticity. You get a little bit of that spicy floral character and some piney notes as well. You do get a little bit of that if you just smell it a little bit more deeply. So just take a little bit of time and make sure you do that. But we'll get stuck into this beer then. So this one is the Half Cut, a collaboration beer between Magic Rock Brewing from Huddersfield in Yorkshire in England and Other Half Brewing Company from Brooklyn in New York. Let's get stuck into this beer then. Cheers, Slàinte. Yeah, that's really quite nice. Wouldn't expect anything else from Magic Rock though. Like I said, I tried this beer with Peter and Rob when I was in Copenhagen, and it was really, really nice. We tried Putty from Verdant, we tried this one, and then we tried the NW Deepa, the Citra one from Cloudwater, of course. So we had 3 really, really damn good English beers. And it is, when you have them on your own, when you're having that amount of hops, I think it was the Putty that we tried first. When you have that amount of hops, you do, I have to admit, you do lose a little bit when you're trying 3 beers like that. In the when you're trying 3 beers like that in a row, it can be a little bit of it just kind of numbs your mouth a little bit. When you start to appreciate these beers on their own, you know, that's what it's all about. This beer is absolutely cracking. I don't think I quite appreciated it at the time because it was kind of overloaded with hops, but this is really good. Yeah. So, as you would expect, it's got that nice big kind of typical sweetness to it. That New England style kind of smooth malt base. So you've got a nice little bit of bready character. You can feel that oaty sweetness on top of your tongue. To me, right in the middle of the palate, I'm just getting a little bit of biscuitiness in there, which is quite interesting. Yeah. The hops are really the hops, of course, are where the complexity in this beer is. And the back corners of the palate, so then I'm getting a wee tiny bit of earthiness. That'll be the mosaic. I always remember the mosaic giving you just that little bit of earthiness in the back corners of the palate. So I think that's where that's coming from. As you come further forward, you get this nice sort of spicy floral aromatic character. It is almost a little bit pine resinous, and to me, you do get a nice bit of darker tropical fruit. Like there's a wee bit of grapefruit. Just if you just go behind the front curve of your tongue, of course, that's where these nice juicy fruits come out. There is a little bit of that darker kind of grapefruit flavour there in the beginning, but it is really suppressed by the more juicy tropical fruits that you're going to get from a lot of the other hops in this. There is a tiny bit of it there, but as you move further and further into the aftertaste, you start to get more and more complexity out of the kind of fruit hoppy characters of this beer. It's really nicely done. Yeah, you've seen how long it is since take a sip. Right now I'm getting that slightly darker tropical fruit note out of this one. It's a little bit of grapefruit, and then it starts to mellow out. I'm starting to get a bit more of the kind of mango-y characters now. That'll be the Citra coming out in this one. And then as it progresses, I'm getting a little bit of the... I'm getting more of the kind of tangerines and oranges, like the Amarillo and the Mosaic are starting to come out a little bit more now. Then if you go even further into the taste, you get a little bit of that kind of lemon limey note. I'm not getting so much of the pineapple, which I think was the HBC hop that was in this one. That was supposed to give you a little bit of pineapple. There is a bit of limey character, I think, though. But regardless, I mean, there's a lot of tropical fruits to this one. So if that's your thing, of course, you're going to get pretty much what you're after out of this beer. It really is very nicely done. You know, this is the good thing about having one of these half-litre cans. You can always give yourself a little bit of an extra pour. But it's really nice. As I said, as you come further forward on this one, you feel a little bit of the pine resins there. There's definitely a little bit of resinous character in this one. It's not simply a spicy floral aromaticity. As you go round the front curve of your palate, it just smooths out and becomes a little bit more grassy. Like I say, grapefruit in the beginning, it mellows out and you start to get more of these kind of sort of slightly the kind of mango-y notes. Then the mangoes are the ones that I think that linger in this and kind of underpin the fruit flavour. Then you start to get a little bit of these tangerines and orangey characters, and you start to get a little bit of lemon limey character. There's a little bit of lychees mixing in there as well. You start to get the lighter, juicy tropical fruits as you progress your way through this beer. It is always cool actually to encounter new hops like this. I do need to see if I can perhaps find a single hop Denali beer. That would be a really interesting one to try. That's one of the cool things, of course, about the craft beer industry. There's always new types of malts, there's always new hops, and they're coming out from different countries as well. The New Zealanders are experimenting with these, the Americans are, of course, even Germany, so the established beer countries, there's always new hops coming out there. Slovenia, places like that, Australia, there's just always new hop varieties coming out that are really cool to kind of try. So Denali and HBC 438, I believe it was in this one. There are some really interesting characteristics to these ones. As you get further and further into the aftertaste, that tropical fruit complexity that you get out of this just kind of, it really does take hold. But to me, it's a little bit of that grapefruit note that's kind of underpinning it. There's a bit of mango-y character. The mangoes are the kind of centre note, and then you start to get the oranges, and then it just mellows out. I think that's a good way to kind of sum up the hoppy character in this beer. But regardless, the rating that it has on Rate Beer, at the time when I first tried this beer I thought it was really good, but now that I'm trying it on its own I can appreciate it a little bit more just for the complexities that it has. There's no question, I mean, it deserves that rating that it has on Rate Beer. I can definitely agree with that. It's really nicely done. To me it feels a little bit more boozy than some of these kind of more New England style IPAs that I've had before. But I mean, that doesn't really matter. The main point is that it's a pretty damn good beer. In terms of the mouthfeel, this one, I think I'm going to go with mid-bodied for this one. Carbonation is quite smooth. It's got a little bit of a mixture between oily and kind of creamy character. This one does lean a little bit more towards the oily side of things than that typical kind of New England juicy creamy sort of thing. There's a good little bit of hoppy bitterness to this one, but it's not going to blow your head in terms of IBUs. There's a little bit of malty kind of sweetness in there. There's some juicy fruit notes, and as you move further into the aftertaste you can just feel a little bit of that spicy kind of floral character pushing its way through, and a bit of the pine resiny bitterness. But the main way to sum up this beer, the fruity complexities in this one are really what make it so special, and the fact that it's got two hops in it that you're not going to come across all that often, the Denali and the HBC 438. That may well become, you may see this video 2 years or so down the line and it's quite a popular hop and it's been renamed by then, but at the moment this is a fairly rare hop as far as I know. But this beer has turned out really quite nicely, and that's what I love about Magic Rock, is they're always willing to experiment with new ingredients like this. And if this is a kind of a sort of, how do you say, a sort of marker of how good quality other halves brewing beers are, I really need to check out some of their stuff as well. But like I say, that's one of the novel things about the American craft beer scene. There's always new beers from new states to have a look at, and it is cool to be starting to see some of these New York breweries finding their way over to Europe. But yeah, to sum up this one, the half cut, the other half, and Magic Rock collaboration is a really damn good beer. So if you get the chance to try this one, I highly recommend that you do. The fruit complexities are what make this beer really special. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. I hope you've enjoyed this one. It has taken me a little bit more time to go through this because it is such a complex beer, but I hope you've enjoyed my review nonetheless. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers from these breweries are as well, of course. But thank you once again for watching. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Make sure you check out my social media, and as always, do make sure you support your local craft breweries. The Half Cut, a collaboration beer between Magic Rock Brewing from Huddersfield, Yorkshire in England, and Other Half Brewing Company from Brooklyn in New York. Until the next time, it's landed just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. If you love a big, kind of slightly bitter, fruity, complex, hoppy IPA, you are really going to love this one. It's landed just now.